No, I'm good.
I'm German.
Are you gonna stay?
We'll stay after you guys present. And
Yeah,
we'll-
and then
Okay, this is gonna ask.
I said, I learned my lesson. I once went, oh, I'm gonna stay in Kinsey Shop. Like an hour and a half later. I learned a few things, but I'm like, really? So, no, I've learned not to be asked to delegation.
it's unfortunate the way it happened too. I think it was just poorly communicated.
You know, it means we'll vacate the front row so well.
You saw how much Jesse wrote for one and said.
$8,000.
It's not ridiculous, he deserves to make good bucks. I haven't managed to connect with all of them, but I will. I'll definitely get straight.
I figured maybe
Five baby reasonable.
especially in line with what we paid.
Yep, like Lubeck, again, got a grand each.
Exactly.
We got two, so there's about five, I think, for the quartet.
Yes.
1, 2. No, quintets must be $6,000 for that show.
Is that right?
Yeah. So that's, I'm more comfortable with that. 8, let's push it.
Well, that's what Mescal said for their recent production. That's what they would charge us. And so
The dance game.
like to rematch what they
How many
But we
people?
wanna, right? Like in Vancouver, we don't even know where he's going.
No.
But I almost like the idea of them coming in and presenting creating something new, like 3 pieces or something. And just presenting that within their budget. And maybe they do it outside sometimes. It's all done outside. I don't have to worry about
Submerged stage. Submerged stage.
submerged stage.
I want a submerged
Dances
stage.
on water.
I think it would be too much fun.
Real dances on water.
Yeah. That's what I'm shooting for.
Yes.
I think it'd be spectacular. And some, you know, text, you know, it can't be that hard. Right? Wouldn't even cost that much. A few lights and some shooting water, cascading water.
Super fun. Yeah, and also some other smaller ones to go in.
All we need is money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I actually find.
Everything else is
I'm
just,
trying to figure out if we've
else
missed.
is just doing
It's
it.
kind of like buying soil.
$6,000
Credit you.
No.
But I think it's the end of the cost of slowly.
I had to find whatever credit you were
But our nonprofit. Yeah.
and but you have to apply for a certain time. And there. Such a foundation. And a deadline, February for the last.
I'm talking to you, right? You know. How are you feeling? I'm so congested.
You notice it's 3 o'clock, I guess. So I'm calling this meeting to order of the Town of Gibsons Committee of the Whole of February 6th, 2024 at 3 p.m. We're honored to gather here on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. First, we need to approve the agenda, and I think everybody's here. I always forget this when we do our agenda setting, but I always like to put planning and development first so that we can, because there's staff in the audience that have to sit through a lot otherwise. So we'll move them to with a change for the planning development to be 4.1, and just we'll change that order, okay? Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor Lumley to adopt the agenda. All those in favor? The motion carries. And first up for delegations, we've got Chief Rob Michael to present the Q4 report for the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to present today. Membership currently sits at 50 firefighters, including 5 new recruits that started early this year. Last year's recruits completed their exterior firefighter training and have begun responding to callouts. The focus of training for this quarter was vehicle rescue, rapid intervention, and interior firefighting training. The fire department also hosted an emergency vehicle operation course. Members from Pender Harbor and Half Moon Bay were also able to participate in this offering. There are ongoing plans to host this course throughout the Sunshine Coast, starting with Seashell Fire this month. The fire department responded to 69 calls for service in the fourth quarter, including a fire in a home-built sauna, an electric scooter fire, a rollover motor vehicle incident at the ferry terminal, and a significant structure fire in Bonnybrook. Quint 1 was temporarily out of service due to an air leak, and a roof leak was discovered in late November in the facility. Facility maintenance was able to secure a roofing contractor on short notice, and the roof has been temporarily patched. However, complete roof replacement may need to take place sooner than later. The fire prevention team completed 10 fire and life safety inspections, 16 referrals, and 3 OFC fire investigations. A number of families stopped by the fire hall for tours during winter break, and the fire prevention team assisted a local elementary school with a science experiment where they were dropping eggs from a height. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions on any fire department activities or projects.
Thank you. Any questions from council? This is a thorough report, as always. All the information, we're kind of used to all the information being here in the report, so sometimes there's no questions. Councillor Kroll.
Just with and thank you for the report, Chief Michaels. With respect to the scooter fire, is there any more detail on that? Because I've been reading quite a bit with certain EVs. There have been issues while they're being charged that they've caused a fire, and was that the situation with this one?
Yeah, so with this particular one, the fire investigation determined it was a faulty aftermarket charging that had caused this fire.
Just follow up because working with the planning department and the building department, a number of the new buildings that are coming into the community, we're advocating location and space for EV charging. So it's going to be something that we're going to have to flag, that people using these facilities are using compliant manufacturer recommended chargers and not third party, because a fire in a situation where you've got suddenly 10 electric scooters that are lost could be problematic. So thank you for flagging this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Chief Michaels. Thanks again for the report. And next we have Staff Sergeant Jennifer Prunty from the RCMP to present quarter 4 statistics.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for having me here. Seems no time that 3 months has gone by, but here we are again. So I've taken a page from Chief Michael's book and provided a bit more narrative for you in this this quarterly report. I am open to feedback in terms of how you'd like to see that. If you want more of a narrative, less of the stats, more of the stats, more on specific stats. But I'll give you a quick overview on where we're at right now. So first of all, just going through the stats, not an enormous change in the number of calls for service. We were at, for last year, the same period of time, October to December, we had 57 calls for service, 461 calls for service, and we are up slightly more to 490 calls for service, same period of time for this quarter. So priority 1 calls, again, pretty much the same, 57 to 56. Within the stats themselves, nothing overly alarming jumping out. Things are fairly level there. But I would be open to any questions anybody had. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them already, but.
Any questions from council? I was going to ask about the line of that cause disturbance. It's kind of been going up over the years.
Yes,
See? And
yeah.
I'm just wondering if that's because is it being interpreted differently? Is it a?
It's one of those ones,
Maybe tell us what it would entail, and
For sure.
I'm also curious about how it might overlap with the kind of the responses our bylaw enforcement
like
team
you're
may need
reading
to
my
make.
mind.
Yeah.
There is overlap for sure with bylaw on cause disturbance. Anything that's reported to us as basically a disturbance. So it could be someone that's on the street yelling and screaming, or just something that's unsettling to someone and they've called to ask us to go and check it out. It's one of those catch-all, along with check well-being, that does, that you'll see that number go up along with mental health calls, alcohol in public calls, those sorts of things. They kind of go hand in hand together. There is actually a charge under the criminal code for causing a disturbance, but generally when we're being called, it's to stop something else from happening. So if I can put it that way, is generally the best way to describe what we're getting called to. So we're not necessarily going there to investigate a criminal offense. We're going there to quell a situation that could develop into something else. So.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. More comment. Without being too onerous, I appreciate the description with the teams instead of just the statistics.
Okay,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate, because you have a better understanding, right, of the different aspects. So, and I'm sure the public appreciate that too. So, hopefully, it's not too much work.
Not at all. No.
Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, thanks for the report. Just maybe an explanation on drug possession, just because, maybe I'm naive, but you could just assume that if you can walk into a store and buy drugs, and you're going to possess them on your way out of the store. So what would this category be as far as drug possession go, like cannabis and so on and so forth? It's just quantity, like that's all it is?
Yeah,
So
they're not charges. So, and generally those ones are people who've come into our custody for something else, and then it's been found on them upon their release. So if it's over 3 grams, that would be, one indication. Yeah, they're not chargeable offenses. We certainly haven't had a drug possession offense be charged for several years now.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for the report. And this is just because I sort of like to hear it from the source, but the vacancies that you're currently trying to fill, what would you say is your major obstacle in filling these positions?
Okay, so that's moving right on into the narrative, but yeah, let's go there. No, you know what? It was housing for a long time. Well, for a couple of years anyway. But now it's more time. It's just the time it takes to run a staffing process really is what kind of hinders us. And that's, we're working as an organization to make that a little faster. But there are people who are interested in coming here, and housing's not necessarily a barrier for them. So we've had, since I got here, we've had 6 new recruits. So that's within the last year and 8 months, we've had 6 recruits come through, and all of them have found housing. So, it takes a little bit, but we work as a detachment, and we work with community partners to find suitable housing for people. So that hasn't been the barrier. And it's also releasability from other detachments. Other detachments are holding on to their people because they don't know when they're getting new people either. So we're working through that. I've just recently done a business case to have us. We used to be listed as a priority placement detachment because of the unique environment that we're in with the ferry access and our inability to get overtime resources quickly. And so I've been working to get us put back on the priority list, which we by all accounts, will be by next month. So we had, the 3 outstanding constable positions should be filled quite quickly. And then the corporal watch commander, since I wrote this report, he's actually had an accepted offer on his house. So thankfully, we will finally see him here by April 1st.
Thank you. Yeah, and I also appreciate the bit of a narrative that's added too with the staffing and other issues. One question I had there is, Councillor Kroll and I were both at the online meeting, the regional policing meeting. So, and I remember there was a question that was asked there that I didn't really hear the answer to. When was it? It was the status of the youth liaison officer.
Okay, so yes, we've had to move our youth liaison position, also known as school liaison, into frontline policing duties. So he's working on the watch right now, but the first constable that we get is going to that watch so that he can return to his duties. So that was always only meant as a temporary move, and it was my last resort, and it's done. He really did make an impact for the 2 months that we've had him on the watch, but thankfully we can move him back now.
Great, thanks.
And then just following up on the staffing, there's several initiatives there that we've been working on. Again, you've probably had a chance to read. I won't go through the whole report in the interest of time for you, but one thing that we are really working hard on right now is restorative justice and looking to the community for referrals and participation in that process. So you'll see more on that in the coming months.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
And next we have Nancy Cottingham-Powell and Christina Wilson from the Gibsons Community Building Society on the Healthy Harbor Report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Nancy Cottingham-Powell. I'm the new Executive Director at Blue Act Marine Society, which you will have known previously as the Gibsons Marine Education Society. We're in the middle of rebranding, so we've got half of it done. I'm here today. We are in between curators for the aquarium. So I've got my colleague here, who is our interim curator, Christina Wilson, and she's also our education program manager. So with the help of Christina, who has a science background, and our dive safety officer, Kevin Swoboda, Kevin worked with the community to put together this report, to gather the statistics for the year and then put together the report. So we are just going to zoom you through a PowerPoint and do highlights, because obviously we've got quite an extensive report here. Let's see if I get this right. Yay! All right, so we just wanted to sort of highlight and remind ourselves that this is an environmental community partnership between the town of Gibsons and Blue Act Marine Society, and it's been a 4-year collaborative agreement. The vision was a healthy harbor and vibrant harbor, and it was all about management of the marine natural assets of the recreational water lease area, and to support the Gibsons Harbor example of innovative eco-asset management. So this is the final year of that 4-year agreement that started in 2019. Oops, too far. There we go. So the project overview, just to remind ourselves, is that we were looking at subtidal surveys of the recreation water lease area, habitat restoration options. We haven't actually done we've done the more surveying at this point. Showcase diversity of local marine life, community engagement and education, and building regional expertise and capacity. So let's see how we did. Well, we also want to talk about Gibson's natural asset perspective. Obviously, why are we doing this? And so much of the work that you've done on your important natural asset work. This foreshore area is, it creates beds, provide infrastructure services in like storm surge and flood and erosion protection. its conservation and protection versus restoration right now, and the significance of the eelgrass, which is very important to a lot of marine habitat, but particularly in harbor settings for the carbon sequestration, habitat for forage fish and other species, and support recreational and commercial fisheries. Obviously that drives tourism and local economies. So it's important to maintain that. So I'll pass it over to Christina.
Okay. So in 2023, we did a lot of assessments and surveys to collect some data. In the Gibsons Marina Breakwater area, this area has optimal conditions for eelgrass, but also high potential for anthropogenic impacts because of the amount of recreational and commercial traffic in that area. So we did an assessment of potential moorage impacts to the habitat. When we went out, there were 10 mooring buoys. Our results showed a mixed impact on the beds. 3 of the buoys, they're marked by the arrows there, were impacting the eelgrass through shading or scouring of the seabeds. So either the vessels that were moored there were creating shade, or there, as you can see in the bottom photos there, some of the mooring lines and chains were actually scouring the seabed, which is a big impact. In the Armours Beach Checkwhelp area, the voluntary no anchor zone that was established in 2022, we looked at the conditions of the marker buoys and how effective the signage in that area was for getting people to not anchor in that area. So the marker buoys were in good condition. There were some minor deficiencies that are recorded in our report. The photos on the bottom of the screen there show some of the marine growth that was observed on some of the lines, which weights it down and then increases the potential of scouring. Yeah, the bottom, yeah. In terms of the effectiveness of the signage, that was actually the results were quite good. We didn't find any anchored or moored vessels in that area, so the signs are largely accomplishing their purpose. We did, however, find one anchored dock. It was a small wooden floating dock structure. We did not observe any signage to indicate ownership of that dock, and we also didn't observe any eelgrass beds underneath it. So it is there, but there were no immediate impacts. Another point is that beyond the buoy labeled NA5, so this is getting more towards the Gibsons Harbor area, beyond the voluntary no anchor zone, we did notice vessels that were encroaching on the eelgrass habitat area. And so there were some anchorages and moorings observed there. So depending on the tide or the wind, the vessels that are there could drift and cause shading impacts to the eelgrass in that area. Currently, there is no signage in that area because it's beyond this voluntary no anchor zone. We also did a marine debris survey in both the Gibsons Marina Breakwater area and the Armours Beach Checkwhelp area. In the breakwater area, we did note a significant amount of debris in the eelgrass beds. Things like bottles and cans, unidentified plastic, derelict crab traps, small vessel hulls, things like that were there. In the Armours Beach Checkwhelp area, a lot less debris, although we did find some small vessel hulls as well. Through some additional funding that we brought to the table from Pacific Salmon Foundation, we conducted a marine debris cleanup event. This was quite a successful event. 1.5 tons of debris were collected from the seabed, and 35% of that was diverted from the landfill, which is pretty good. It also provided opportunities for over 25 community volunteers to come out and participate in the project, which was really nice to see. And it was endorsed and supported by Gibsons Landing Harbor Authority, Freedom Diving Systems, Coastbin Rentals, and Gibsons Marine Transport. So a number of other players participated in that as well. So based on our surveying done in 2023 in the Marina Breakwater area, we have a recommendation to explore a voluntary no anchor zone in that area. There's a couple challenges with this area in that the irregular shape of the eelgrass beds makes it a little bit difficult, as well as the high amount of recreational and commercial vessel traffic in that area because of the proximity of the harbor. So consultation with key stakeholders would be essential moving forward with this recommendation. We're recommending that it could be done in a two-phase project approach, where the first phase would be a pilot study, some metrics would be developed, it would allow an opportunity for public awareness and dialogue, and then based on the results of that, those would inform the second phase, which could extend the conservation zone into the green triangle area on that second photo there. So we put together just a summary of the activities that we've done through this project from 2019 to 2023. You can see we've undertaken eelgrass assessments, marine debris surveys, some engagement and consultation, as well as some monitoring assessments on the initiatives that have been put in place to look at how well things are going. So what happens next? Moving forward, these points would be what we are considering as priority considerations. So the deficiencies that I mentioned with the marker buoys in the Armours Beach, Checkwelp, voluntary no anchor zone would need to be addressed to ensure that they're not creating impacts on the eelgrass bed. As well as planning initiatives to establish a conservation zone in the breakwater area, which is that establishing another voluntary no anchor zone and looking at how to do that. Some long-term conservation recommendations that we have would be to continue the long-term monitoring of eelgrass habitat and health, extending the mapping and surveying of the beds into areas such as Georgia and Pebbles Beach to expand our baseline data of where the beds are and what condition they're in. Continuing the voluntary no anchor zone project into the breakwater area and potentially any other areas that might be identified as having that as an effective conservation initiative, as well as ongoing marine debris cleanup events with additional third-party funding that we could bring.
So what we're also recommending is that there's a list of nice-to-haves, not must-haves. So these are, if we obviously proceed with our partnership and there's more money at the table, either from the town of Gibsons or third-party funding, we could look at an expansion of conservation signage in public areas, eelgrass transplant projects to actually contribute to long-term habitat health, where we determine that eelgrass needs a little help to come back in a robust manner. Once we've settled the area so that it's not being constantly disturbed. Develop citizen science monitoring programs. There's lots of fun ideas. European green crab and Dungeness crab monitoring is some of those things that we could be doing. There's also some talk of getting some very scientific looking equipment and putting that on the back of boats and doing water monitoring on a regular basis so we could monitor the temperature and alkalinity and all these different things of the ocean, of the area on a regular basis. We could also develop a Healthy Harbor user guide. So this could take many forms. It could be a digital guide. It could be something that we do an app. You know, I mean, the sky's the limit depending on what we want to do and what kind of funding is out there. Assessment of other marine species relating to Healthy Harbor, such as forage fish, and Healthy Harbor Spear Series, which potentially leads into the next delegation that there might be opportunities there. So we would like to say, first of all, we've been very pleased to be partners with the town of Gibsons for the last 4 years, and we would really like to be in conversation to talk about the next 4 years as partners in this Healthy Harbor project. I think it seems to be a good fit for both organizations and what we're trying to achieve, where our mutual goals are. So we suggest that we meet with the town of Gibsons staff and review this report and the recommendations, and then we could start to negotiate the Healthy Harbor project agreement moving forward. And we would continue, once that agreement is in place, to pursue grants and other funding sources and other partners to bring to the table to bring more resources, but also more expertise to the table to help us make the Gibsons Harbor one of the healthiest harbors in the region, if not the most.
Thank you. It's really great to see the progress of this just tremendous partnership and the work that's been going on to advance it over the years. It's really exciting and impressive. I think I saw Councillor Kroll first.
Yes, thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for the report. It is encouraging to see that the environmental protection that's going on. The Nicholas Sontag Marine Education Center is a registered nonprofit, I believe. Charity.
And charity, yeah.
So to that end, do you apply to BC Gaming for funding?
We do not at this time. We're a closed membership, so we're not eligible.
I thought you were because of your charitable status and the fact that they have an environmental category that you can apply for.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a regulation that you have to be an open membership, and it's complicated, but actually the Blue Act Marine Society, which is the nonprofit charity, nests within the Gibsons Community Gibsons Community Building Society's nonprofit. So we can talk offline, or
Okay.
I'm sure our board chair would be happy to share with you the history of how that all came about as well. But thank you. I'm always looking for funding tips, so I'll take them.
And I saw Councillor Lemley next, and then Councillor DeAndrade.
Yeah, I guess through the mayor, I was walking down on the path and I did see that raft that you spoke about. I mean, it looks like a piece of garbage, and it had a crappy boat tied up to it. But if it's in the no anchor zone, let's say something's in the no anchor zone and something's anchored there, what's the, are we just asking people not to anchor there? Is there a course of action that is taken next if someone's actually anchored in the no anchor area?
I'll look to our CAO for that. Government authority.
Could ask Sue to comment on that, who has the most experience.
Sure, so we have been talking with the owner of that raft.
Sue, could you come to the mic? I'm sorry, but it's just online audience we have to consider.
Okay, thanks. So we've had a conversation with the owner of the raft. He claims that he's an expert in maritime law and it doesn't count because it's not a vessel. So there's some conversation around about that. We have his details. We've asked him to move it on numerous occasions. He'll move it, but just a few feet. So we're a little bit stuck. I guess the town could go and remove it because it is something that's in our water lease, but then we have to figure out the cost and where we're going to take it to. It's a work in progress.
Thank you. We got Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, welcome on board. And I have to say, honestly, when we decided to do the partnership 4 years ago, I wasn't sure if the Marine Center was going to pull it off. at least according to my expectation, what should be a good stewardship. But I have to say, I think you exceeded my expectations. I'm really pleased. And I sit on the Ocean Watch Action Committee, which is the liaison with the biosphere. And I always see how coordinated, what all the other municipalities are doing. And obviously, you are in touch with Michelle Lewis, our asset manager technician. And this is really good. It's really positive. I can only say great things about it. I'm really pleased because it was a dream. But I thought, I don't know if they can do it. I don't know, I had doubts. Because, you were more directed to education. And so, but anyways, what you guys were able to do to me was amazing. So I'm totally supportive.
Thank you for that vote of confidence. I just do want to let you know that our priority is going to be expanding our conservation work, not only with the town of Gibsons, but with other partners. So it's the new hire that we're out there looking for right now is going to be called a curator and conservation manager. So we're looking for people with quite a strong conservation background to come to the table. So we'll even bring more skill and expertise.
Great. Just from here, I review the next steps, and I think it's largely working with our staff. I don't know if there's, and I know council will keep these issues in mind, like looking for funding sources and things, but probably we'll hear more about that from you and from our staff. There was also the recommendation about another voluntary no anchor zone, and I'm wondering what the process is for that, if that's something that council would be involved in, or how that ends up being pursued.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may, that would have to be done through the recreation water lease bylaw, which has famously been in front of you a few times. We did, you did have some success with phase one of the conservation area. The triangular shape by the breakwater is a bit more involved because we have to obviously work with the harbor authority as well around how to deal with a commercial enterprise that operates there temporarily. And so we have a little bit more coordination, but certainly that would be the legal process would be through the bylaw. And then some communication and engagement with the harbor authority as well. But amongst those three parties, that should be accomplished.
Thank you. Any other questions? Is that okay? I see Councillor Kroll's hand is at the ready. Okay.
I was thinking it, I might as well say it. You mentioned Kevin Swoboda works with you, and I know he has a fairly good working relationship with Jason Vandervalk at VOC, with the Coast Guard and the environmental group. So I'm assuming he's got whatever relationship established between you and those institutions, because there is some funding available, and he has been able to get it with respect to getting rid of derelict vessels and cleanup. So I'm assuming you've got those parties at the table already?
Yeah, well, freedom diving, there was an announcement, I think Mayor White was there, that they've just received some funding to deal with derelict vessels as well. So, and yes, Kevin is our dive safety officer, so he's attached to our organization in that he is the person who oversees our collections and releases and supports us with a lot of the surveying. Either he's doing the work or he's overseeing other people doing it on our behalf.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and for all this great work. Very appreciated by council. And the next delegation was actually, I think, in a draft was going to be this evening, and I saw the name and I thought, let's just do it. Let's just do it at once and not ask Nancy in particular to come twice during the day. So Diana Robertson is here as well to talk about the Gibsons Ocean Fest proposal, as well as Ross Powell.
Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff for the opportunity to present our proposal today to plan and produce a new Gibsons Landing Ocean-Based Community Arts Festival to be presented during July of 2024 as the Gibsons Ocean Fest. My name is Diana Robertson. I'm a creative project producer, festival producer, and a longtime Gibsons resident. I am joined today by Ross Powell from Arcadian Productions, who co-produced the Seashell Arts Festival with me for the past 7 years, and festival supporter Nancy Cottingham Powell, who is, of course, the current ED of the Public Market and the Nicholas Sontag Marine Education Center. Nancy was also the founder of the Seashell Arts Festival back in 2004 and spent 4 years at the helm as producer, and I was her co-producer for a period of time. So we all know each other. The Gibsons Ocean Fest would present a new vision of the beloved Sea Cav that ran for almost 50 years, ending in 2019. And although some attempts have been made to remount the Sea Cav, the original producers have experienced a lack of volunteer enthusiasm. The nonprofit society has also been dissolved. So the logistics of the new Gibsons Ocean Fest would be managed by Ross Powell and myself, a seasoned team of event producers with decades of experience, including 10 years successfully managing the Seashell Arts Festival, as well as numerous off-coast festivals, parades, and major special events. Our experience includes production, programming, budgeting, marketing, volunteer and talent coordination, and fundraising. We do plan to partner with a number of key stakeholders in Gibsons Landing area to create a festival advisory committee to present the annual event. And initial discussions have begun with the Public Market, the Marine Education Center, the museum, the Gibsons Public Art Gallery, the Gibsons Marina, and several merchant stakeholders who have all responded with enthusiasm and offers of support. The Public Market and the Marine Education Center missions include creating a hub for coastal life and promoting the health of the local ocean. They would partner with Ocean Fest to provide the market and aquarium venues as a hub of activity for this festival. Other community locations may include Armours Beach, the Gibsons Public Art Gallery, the museum, the Gibsons Harbor Pier, the Gibsons Marina, Wine Garden Park, and the Gibsons Landing merchants and restaurants will also be engaged in location access and programming. The focus of the festival will be to celebrate our coastal life, centered on the landing activities that activate more awareness about our precious Gibson seaside environment. Through multiple arts, cultural, and educational activities, including music, visual art, multicultural dance, workshops, exhibits, and ocean-themed events, we will reinforce the benefits that make Gibsons a vibrant and sustainable seaside community. The festival will also support our coast cultural economy. Initial suggestions may include a day or evening oceanfront parade through Gibsons Landing, a walking parade, featuring costumes, sea creatures, puppets, dancers, and musicians, a Saturday evening lantern parade and street dance on the pier, a Friday night beer garden at the market, a special jellyfish musical project presentation, a regatta at Armours Beach and Gibsons Marina with sailing, canoe, kayak, and paddleboard racing, and a salmon and bannock barbecue. Outreach with cultural ambassadors from the Squamish and Seychelles nations will inform an Indigenous festival component as well. Now, the Marine Education Center will concurrently run the Orca Ocean Art event, which is ongoing, that will raise funds to support their aquarium programs. But in addition, the Nicholas Sontag Marine Education Center is planning to host an Ocean Conservation Day as part of this festival, bringing together conservation partners to celebrate the work being done to protect our local marine environment. Integral to the success and branding of the festival will be the support of the town of Gibsons. And that might include a letter, which we do need, of municipal support in order to apply for an upcoming BC Arts Council grant, which will be done through an associated society, probably the Dance Society, which will be hosting some of the dance events for the festival. To help us provide in-kind services such as traffic controller permitting, insurance for various venues during the July event, allow the producers to prepare community grant applications on the municipality's behalf based on festival tourism or cultural economy grant opportunities. And this could be something like the federal grant that's available for intake in the fall, which would be good for next year. And we just need an unincorporated advisory team to work with the municipal government to apply for building communities through art and heritage, which is quite a substantial grant. To help us through the provision or reactivation of $15,000 in community festival financial support. That would position the town as presenter sponsor. And this would be for the 2024 festival to help underwrite project planning and development costs. But this support would also help to ratify budgeting requirements required for grant applications, because you do have to show that you've got other money coming from sponsors and supporters in the grant applications. Possibly provide a Gibson staff member or counselor to serve on the festival advisory team as a liaison person, and provide the production exclusivity of event planning during the July 12th to 14th festival. And that would include any other events that are ongoing during that time. So with a limited amount of time to raise funds by June, July of 2024, apply for the applicable grants and garner sponsorship to book artists, et cetera. We are looking for a commitment of municipal support by mid-February. The July festival will be an introductory version of what this festival could become in 2025 and sustaining years thereafter, as it grows with additional self-funding and capacity. The dates planned for this year's festival, the weekend of July 12th, 13th, and 14th, which coincides with various events that are ongoing with the Gibsons Public Market, so that we're not overlapping, but we're working in unison with them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll look to questions from council. At the moment, I think this is really exciting and visionary, in that we definitely have a gap in our, not only due to volunteer, lack of volunteers for the Sea Cavalcade, but also the pandemic really put a knife in things when it comes to summer festivals in Gibsons. So it's exciting, and we appreciate that some work's being done to fill that gap. I think I saw Councillor Kroll move.
Thank you, Mayor White. I'm just wondering, like the Gibsons market do their monthly night markets, would this be in conjunction with it or in addition to it?
In addition, in between.
Well, I noticed the dates, but I just wondered, okay,
We
so,
won't give up the night markets.
No,
okay.
but it definitely won't overlap. There'll be separate dates, end of August, beginning of July, correct? Beginning of July, end of August, the night market. Yeah. And this programming will be different too, so that it's something that's different and quite different from the night market too.
Great. Well, we don't make immediate decisions on requests and delegations, but we do have this on a future agenda to have a look at and discuss as a council.
Great. Yeah, we'd like to discuss some of the details further too, depending on how it goes.
Yeah, and we already had a preliminary meeting about this, just to introduce the concept to staff and to me, and we talked a lot about just all the different ideas that have come forward over the years about what a new event could look like, and some of the business owners especially, and nonprofits and others in the community who are interested in this. And the vision is definitely to get the community together. Yeah,
absolutely.
And
make it happen.
Form a lot of partnerships. So
That's right.
we'll see what can be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Planning and Development Services Department Quarter 4 report. So that, does anyone have the page in front of them? That would be closer to the end of our agenda. don't know if, do we want to go right into questions, or are there any highlights or updates from
It's up
our
to
director?
you. It's all in here.
Okay,
I've added, so I just for context, I went over the projects that we're working on and gave a quick status update on them. I did add a section on the new housing legislation, so the 3 new bills that have been passed and how they impact Gibsons. And then we've got the building section, which breaks down the new housing types and occupancies that have been granted and what we've been, what's in process right now, and then the bylaw section. So I can answer any questions.
Councillor DeAndrade.
I don't have questions, sorry, because the reports were so well written. I just want to say I love this format because when you just present the numbers, there's so many questions, and before sometimes project in progress or something is not enough. But I was really pleased to read and understand everything, and pretty much I didn't have questions, but I love also the part that you described the bylaw, the legislation, which kind of, I think we all know, but it's always better to get more detail and for the public because they read that. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. And there are some weighty subjects in here as well when we're talking about the new legislation, and very complex subjects, well summarized here. Seeing no other questions at the moment, I'd like to ask about the new building code, and I appreciate our building inspectors here. We've had a lot of warnings about the changes to the building code coming up and how it's going to really change the landscape for, as always, for construction and development. It's a challenge right now because we're also dealing with a housing crisis and affordability crisis, and I haven't heard anyone speculate yet, or haven't heard from any builders yet telling me their lives are going to be even more impossible now. So I'm curious whether there are any updates from what we've been able to ascertain from the new version of the code, how much, how more, if it's going to create more challenges for builders and costs and more work for you as well, just in general.
Yeah, it's possible, and it is hard to say exactly what that's going to look like right now. It's not out yet, but one of the things that might add additional cost is the radon rough-in that everybody will be subject to now. It's already in Seashell and has been for some time, but Gibsons and the SCRD will also, everybody will have to do that now. And there may be some substantial structural changes coming. It's hard to say what that's going to look like, to be honest. But yeah, it's just part and parcel with all the new requirements. Yeah. Step code is still just at step 3 right now, so it's just, yeah, it's hard to say.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I knew it was hard to say a couple weeks ago, so I guess that's still the case. We won't know for a while yet. Yeah, still. Okay.
We'll keep you updated though, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll hear about it from builders in the community, no doubt too. Councillor DeAndrade.
I said I didn't have a question, now I have about the radon, because I remember when I heard for the first time, I look at a map and I thought we were not in the map. Do we have this issue here on the coast?
So Seashell made its way into the building code, being listed as somewhere where radon was present, although there wasn't really much proof of that. But the SCRD and the town of Gibsons, they weren't specifically listed. So I know at the SCRD, when I was still there, we ran tests all over the coast, the radon test kits, and it all came back negative. But since then, BC has come up with enough studies and concern that they just blanket it. Everybody now is subject to it. So although we may not actually be in a radon area, there might be some houses that do, and that's enough risk. They felt warranted. Just everybody has to conform to it now, and it's just something that everybody will get used to. It might be an added cost and annoyance in the beginning, but it'll soon become commonplace for everybody. And yeah, kind of like the step code. Yeah.
Thanks. Any other questions on the planning report, planning development? Okay, thank you. Thanks for your assistance earlier too, Sue. Next, we have the Administration and Corporate and Legislative Services Departments, Q4 report, pages 71 to 85 of the agenda. CAO Machado.
Mr. Mayor, I'll start. I want to just acknowledge that Rebecca is not with us. She's dealing with a personal matter, and we're sending her our support. But we've got, so a lot of this report was prepared by Tracy, who stepped up to provide the information you have there, and Brownman, and of course myself as well. Just highlight a couple of things. The strategic plan, and thanks for the time earlier today to review that and continue to move the strategic plan forward and implementation. The other part that I wanted to highlight is there's an update on the homeless outreach program. It's been a very important program for the town, particularly over the last year. And as you can see by the summary, which that summary was prepared by Mrs. Burke, by Chantal herself. But it gives council a sense of all that's being out there to support those most disadvantaged in our community. And a little bit of an oddball, the predictive model project, which is some very the work we've been doing since about 2021 when we did the resilience framework, just realizing that we wanted to particularly improve our ability to support council with your decision making. And I think communities need better tools to make these complex decisions. Take something as like the official community plan. In the not too distant future, we'll be able to assess the total impact of all those decisions and be able for council to test different policy options. We had circulated an article a few days ago around, how the Bank of Canada in this case uses models to assess policy, and it just moves us from, sort of a paper approach to policy to like putting it to an Excel spreadsheet. It's able to calculate a lot more that's beyond sort of our capacity. So it's a tool that we hope to use in the future. We've been working directly with the Municipal Finance Authority and MIA in the province of BC on this work, trying to make sure that we produce something that benefits the community, but at the same time it also contributes to our overall resilience in the province and beyond that. So that's a bit of a summary of what we're working on at the moment. Let's see if you have any questions. But I don't know if I wouldn't mind passing it on to Tracy, perhaps, just to want to highlight a couple of things in your area or in O'Brien for that matter.
Thank you, Manny. Everything's pretty much in the report, but I can just highlight a few things. So continue to have technology set up as we have new staff coming on board or exiting the organization. We're also working on replacing aging equipment as we start to see the end of life for some of our technology. I get to do the commissioner for taking affidavit services is one of the most enjoyable pieces of the job for sure, with certifying pension documents for expatriates living in the area. The public use permitting process has been really active since the end of COVID, with 2023 seeing 17 permit applications. 13 were executed and 4 withdrawn for various reasons. And those often work with our infrastructure department to work on the highway use permits if there's any road closures or any coordination that needs to happen with our parks staff as well. Working hard with the SharePoint implementation project, which is well underway, and addressing things like a change management plan, communication plan, and a training program for users, the end users, and we remain on track to go live May 2024. I work very closely with Cloud9, who provides our IT support, and working through budget right now with them. Also in the report is an overview of the services provided by Cloud9 that keeps our technology running smoothly. Some of the IT projects that were completed in 2023 were the launch of the Cisco Duo that was deployed for all staff to secure remote access to a Global Protect client, which is the VPN. Cloud9 also assists it with the SharePoint project to give access to our contractors, Cadence Solutions. We updated our firewalls and we launched our Proofpoint email scanning program. Lastly, the Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committee meets monthly to discuss and identify health and safety needs for our workers. The committee is made up of management and union staff, and we meet monthly to do inspections in compliance with the legislation, and detailed records are kept of inspections, agendas, and minutes. And happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? You mentioned new staff. Does anyone want to introduce us to any new staff?
I am pleased to introduce Heidi Siller, who is our new executive assistant for the town of Gibsons, and we welcome Heidi. Today is her second day. Thank you. And her first committee meeting.
Nice to see you all.
Welcome. It's great to have you. Any other questions on this report? I am excited about this modeling project. That it's always fun to see a spark in Manny's eye when he kind of gets in the mad scientist mode, and this is why we have our natural assets recognition, and yeah, it's exciting. The innovation that our CAO leads at the town of Gibsons. Next, we have the Finance and Human Resources Department report for quarter 4. I don't know, is there an introduction?
Thank you, Mayor. The report, as finance always, is pretty straightforward. The quarter 4, we focused really on utility billing, tax season wrap-up. We also then start working with our auditors for year-end audit for the year-end financial statements. And then we get into budget prep, and that's a big focus for us for the quarter 4. And we're well into that, as you guys know, because I've already been bringing that to you. We did add a bit of extra human resource information. We are always busy with recruitment. We added a bit of information on just our workforce tenure to give you an idea of the workforce compilation that we have now, just for new information for you. So happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks.
Questions, council? Yeah, I find there are rarely questions for this report because it's all in here. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move to infrastructure services, Q4 report, pages 95 to 102.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, the report summarizes the activities of the infrastructure department, kind of running through the various aspects of what we do: development services, natural asset management, capital project status updates, and the operations of the utilities, public works, parks, and facilities. I also would just like to point out, I found a typo when I was reviewing earlier, so for anyone who cares enough, there's a typo in the table in section 5.2. And I will just say that this is the end of my, this report kind of represents the end of my first year in the position of the director of the infrastructure department. We will be updating the report format and content with the intention of a little bit of a revamp for Q1 2024, and certainly would welcome any input from Mayor and Council on content that they may wish to see or not see in the reports moving forward. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for any questions.
Okay, any questions or input? Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. Well, I have to say, I already felt a lot of improvements in this report. In a way, I remember the old infrastructure were more dry, with again more statistics, and I think this is the great, because you want to know where you are, and instead of having to ask when are we going to see the report and when, so it's all here. I really appreciate. Actually, I think by now we will have to take at least half a day with all I'm so looking forward for all these updates with all these reports. So it's really exciting. And Mayor, if I say, just because the other report, we didn't read about I just want to say a little bit of the communication. I really appreciate the work that Brownie is doing. It's really clean and concise, and I appreciate all the newsletter. I think it has been a great improvement for communication, which I'm always trying to elevate. I think we got to this level, so much appreciated.
Thanks for mentioning that. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. The report, I think, is, all the reports we're receiving now are just first rate, and the absence of questions is because the reports are being so well done. Something I would like to mention, knock on wood, we haven't had a lot of snow this year, but certainly kudos go out to our staff who, during the snow events we did have, were totally amazing. Between infrastructure and parks, they did an absolutely great job. You certainly discover where the town line is when there's a snow event. And even the sidewalks, like noticing I assume it's the parks people out with the John Deeres with the plows on them instead of mowers, clearing sidewalks. And, going above and beyond, I even noticed, once the milder weather started coming, the infrastructure crews out clearing the storm drains so we didn't have flooding. So I think, it's kudos to staff for the work well done, because I think the other communities on the coast were green with envy with the job that was done here in Gibsons. And even, to the communications who reiterated, the issues with, property owners being responsible for clearing sidewalks. But I was happy to see some of the sidewalks, which were questionable areas, town had looked after them. So it was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kroll. Councillor Lemley.
Yeah, thanks. Good. Like all the reports, I must say, I agree with all of council that the reports are awesome. Easy to follow. The information you glean from them is important. Maybe more pictures, I guess, for infrastructure. But my question, it's funny, like you travel, even in Vancouver, or I was away just last weekend. I mean, when you drink the water, like just you run a tap and drink some water, whatever hotel you're in or wherever you are, it's a difference. So I just wondered, and I remember with some of the water issues prior to, and the fact that it's not being chlorinated, when it says the Vancouver Coastal Health, I just wondered what is the system, because I remember a long time ago, we had a tour of the system, and it was kind of like all these gauges would signal maybe a shot of chlorine into the water. Is that still is that process? I'm trying hard to remember it, but in the report, it says that under direction from Vancouver Coastal Health. So are they also getting those reports, or are we sending data to them instantaneously, which they're immediately responding to? I just was wondering how it flows.
To our director for that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. The direction that we get from Vancouver Coastal Health to be chlorinating in Zone 1 and 2, they'll come after we get water samples that come back with maybe a count of non-E. coli coliforms in the water. So we do regular sampling. I don't have the numbers in my head as far as how many sample stations we have across town, but we will do regular sampling. They get sent to laboratory for analysis in the city, and Vancouver Coastal Health gets copied on all of the sample results. And so where some of these occasional results will come back, there might be like 10 coliforms in a sample, and the threshold is low. And so the direction would be from Vancouver Coastal Health to chlorinate until a clean sample comes back, or 2 consecutive clean samples. Sometimes it might be sampling error. Sometimes it might be some unknown reason why there maybe was a little bit of bacteria buildup in the distribution system. But we certainly look at them all. We take them all very seriously. We respond in kind to what Vancouver Coastal Health directs. But that's generally where that comes, is they're getting copied on these sample results rather than instantaneous chlorination. We don't automatically chlorinate zones 1 and 2, it's just zone 3, and that's a legacy historical chlorination due to the fact that distribution system in zone 3 used to be fed by the surface water from the SCRD. So just because of any potential residual bacteria, the order has remained to chlorinate the zone 3.
Other questions? Okay, so I think that concludes our committee of the whole meeting today. We have a motion about scheduling, I think this evening, so that the next meeting is determined by that. And we need a motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? Motion carries, so meeting's adjourned. Thanks.